Well, joining us now is Canada's Minister of Heritage, Pascale St-Onge. Minister, thank you for taking the time.
Well, thank you for having me.
Now, I want to begin here with the financial contribution, because what Google will make under this deal, or give under this deal, is basically 41% lower than what Canadian officials said should be Google's monetary threshold. Are you disappointed by the $100 million in any way?
No, not at all, because there was a lot of numbers that were floated during the last year while this law was being discussed. However, even in all the other agreements that Google might have around the world, it's never clear how much there is in those agreements when it comes to the monetary aspect and the non-monetary aspect. So what we've secured is $100 million per year, which will be indexed to inflation. And Google will continue to provide other services to our news outlets everywhere in Canada. So it's more valuable than just $100 million. But in the agreement, we wanted to make sure that we secured the monetary part of, of this.
Okay, so more than just the $100 million, as you say, because there will be contributions in kind, I guess is the best way to put it. But talk to us about the importance of setting this precedent, because Google was the one company that stayed in discussions with the government as Meta pulled out.
Well, it's extremely important because, one of the things that was said about the Australian agreement, and our legislation is based a little bit on the Australian model, is that the deals were struck behind closed doors. So nobody knows exactly how much Google is paying to the news outlets, and neither do we know how many news outlets are actually receiving contribution. In Canada, we chose a legislation, we chose transparency, and we chose to make sure that not only the big news outlets would have access to this deal with Google, but that also would be included at the table of discussion local media, smaller media, independent media, indigenous media, medias of official languages in minority situations. So transparency was really important to us.
Mm-hmm. So transparency as well as the money. What impact do you hope this money will actually have on the media landscape in this country?
Well, this is an additional piece of the puzzle. We know that the media has been through a big crisis over the last decade because of the disruption in the market brought by those super powerful tech giants. This is a piece of the puzzle to reestablish a little bit more balance between those digital platforms and the news sector, which is vital to democracy. So it's not going to solve everything, but this is $100 million of new dollars that will be injected in the news sector in Canada.
Mm-hmm. Now, as you know, a lot of questions are being asked right now as to how much money the CBC, Radio-Canada, will actually get out of that $100 million. How much of an issue is that for you? How will that actually be addressed?
Well, I think it's important that we don't discriminate the type of information and its value when it comes to digital platform. I think the news provided by our public broadcaster has value and should be recognized by Google. However, I do know that the sector is having a lot of difficulty. I do know that the public broadcaster has strong public support. So we will balance that out, and everything will be made clear in the final regulations that will come out shortly before the law is enacted on December 19th.
Okay, so we'll look for details before December 19th, as you say. One last word from you, and this is more of I guess, a philosophical thought, because as I stated, Google stayed in there, negotiated with the Canadian government. Meta did not. What does that say about a company's social responsibility to be a good corporate citizen?
It says a lot. It says that Meta refuses to follow government legislation, which is a huge problem. It also shows that Meta is choosing to leave its platform basically to disinformation and misinformation, because we know that the best way to fight against this is to have journalists that cover the news and that is based on facts. Now, by preventing Canadians to share important news to family and friends, they're actually, in in my opinion, leaving their platform to really only disinformation. And this is a tendency that we see here in Canada, but Facebook is doing the same thing all over the world, slowly cutting access to news. We saw that in Europe. They took off the news tab. And in the United States, there's less and less access to news. So this is extremely worrisome, and I'm wondering what Zuckerberg is doing here.
Okay. Well, Minister, I appreciate the time today. Thank you for it.
Thank you for having me. Have a good weekend.
You too.